Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Thanks for joining us outside. The Sukkah is over there. This is not technically a Sukkah, but we are Sukkah adjacent, as they say. When I lived in LA, if you were Beverly Hills adjacent, you could be in Queen, I don't know, Culver City, but you're Beverly Hills adjacent. So glad that you could all be here tonight. Asher, we're thrilled for you and your family. We're going to celebrate Shabbat together in the beautiful outdoors of Vancouver while we can. Appreciate every day that it rains and appreciate every day it's not raining. Cantor Cohen.
Welcoming in Shabbat with those ministry angels, Malachei HaShavet and Malachei HaShalom, angels of peace, welcoming in Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShavet, Malachei
on Sukkot, on the holiday of Sukkot, there's a tradition called Ushpuzin, which is good enough just in the word that it is, even if you didn't know what it means. Just to say Ushpuzin feels very Jewy. But Ushpuzin is to welcome in imaginary guests, to welcome in the memories of our ancestors. And traditionally would be those from biblical tradition and Jewish history, but it's expanded into all sorts of people from present day and past day, generally who are deceased, but heroes, Jewish and non-Jewish, that you would like to have in your sukkah. That you could have that dinner party, back when people used to have dinner parties before COVID. You could have that imaginary dinner party conversation with. You can invite anybody to your home for dinner throughout history. Who would you invite? That's what Ushpuzin is, more or less. To invite them into your sukkah and then to have a conversation with them. So as we sit here in this tent, think about who you would like to have join you in this moment. For families celebrating Simcha, sometimes it's the memories of parents, grandparents, of loved ones. For those that are going through challenges in their life and family is far away, maybe you want to have your family, your friends with you by your side. Maybe they are by your side. Who would you like to sit with tonight? And what would you say to them? What would you want to hear from them? We can be more than just ourselves in this moment. We can invite others in. And they can daven with us. They can pray with us. Even if they're not here, we can feel them inside. So I invite you to practice this ritual of Ushpuzin, throughout our service, think of who would enjoy sitting next to you, who would you enjoy sitting next to, and as you do that, we're going to invite to come forward to light the Shabbos candles and to do a reading, Luba and Diane and Lisa and Melanie and Iris. So if you can all come and stand here, the reading's here, and then we'll light the candles over there. Let's watch all the works. You just got it, Tim.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Wonderful. Come over here and light the candles. It's already lit, so just hit the center one like the other.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
Shabbat shalom. So you can go that way, I don't think you'll knock it down. We'll continue page 130 as we welcome Shabbat with this medley of Kabbalat Shabbat songs beginning the Chumash page 130.
Let's try Yellow Lie, and then we'll add the words afterwards. Yalai, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, lai, yalai, lai, lai,
Page 138, L'chadodi, as we welcome the Sabbath as though it is embodied in a bride coming into her wedding day.
Shamor vezamor v'tipor echad ishmiyanu el hamichad Adonai echad u'shmo echad v'shemo tiferet v'tzila lechadodi likat kala yadadai 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 b'nei Shabbat v'kabelah lechadodi likat kala yadadai 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 Shabbat, Kabbalat, verse 2. Likat Shabbat, le'necha, kini mekor ha'beracha, merosh mikeren nesucha, sof ma'aseh v'machshavas tchila, lechadodi likat kala yadadai 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 b'nei Shabbat, Kabbalat. Kabbalah, verse 3. Yigash melech yimelucha, u'mizei mitocha hafecha, ratav shevet ve'emnecha bacha, ve'uyach hamol alai chemla, lechadodi likrat kala yadadai 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 b'nei Shabbat. Kabbalah, lechadodi likrat kala yadadai 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 b'nei Shabbat. Kabbalah, verse 5. Itoreri, itoreri, ki ha'orech u'yori, u'riri, shidaberi, kevod Adonai alai chemla. Everyone, lechadodi likrat kala yadadai 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 b'nei Shabbat. Kabbalah, lechadodi likrat kala yadadai 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 b'nei Shabbat.
Rise and face the door and greet the Sabbath bride, though she can come in from any of the entrances.
Goy v'shalom, ateret ba'ala, gam besimcha u'betzora, tov me'onei am segula, goy chala, goy chala.
Turn back around.
Shabbat,
Remain standing.
lechadodi likrat kala yadadai 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 b'Shabbat, Kabbalah, together. Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Yadala 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 Pnei Shabbat Kabbalat Asai Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Yadala 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 Pnei Shabbat Kabbalat.
We'll remain standing. We're going to turn to page 263 for Chatzi Kaddish, which separates from that singing portion of our service. Not that we're not going to keep singing, but that Kabbalat Shabbat part where we get all warmed up to receive Shabbat, and the prayers that Asher's going to lead in just a moment. So Asher, you're on deck. We'll continue page 263, Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה
Amen.
ועלמא דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי וחייכון וביומכון וחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולם מעמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירת בעלמא וימרו אמן.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
May be seated. Asher leads us page 265 in Ma'ariv Arav.
Baruch Atah Adonai Elokeinu Melech Haolam Asher Bidvaru Ma'ariv Arivim V'chokhmah Poteh
ובתבונה משנה עתים ומחליף את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע ברצונו. בורא יום ולילה כולל אור מבני חושך וחושך מבני אור ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב הרבים. Page 266. אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים משפטים אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשובנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה. באהבתך תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
268.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום
יום לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. למען תזכרו עשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Asher will lead us in the responsive reading on page 269.
We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness eludes our grasp, as imperfection and evil abound.
Before our eyes there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
We learn God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך בדבר קודש, נורא תהילתו זה פלא, נורא תהילתו זה פלא. מלכותך ראו בניך, חוקי הימים כמשה ומרים, זה לידנו ועמדו, זה לידנו ועמדו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. נאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Sukkot, we are commanded to dwell in a sukkah, in our beautiful shelter, which we'll visit after our service for Oneg, just over there on the other side of our garden. But on Sukkot, we are supposed to understand ourselves as living under the fragile shelter of, just this very, very simple hut, the branches that hang over us to shelter us. And we know that that is not as strong as, a real roof over our heads, and yet we feel secure and safe inside of it. We know that there is a sense of protection and safety, and that metaphor of a sukkah is one that we hold close to us even the rest of the year, not when it's Sukkot, but all of the time. And every evening when we come to this prayer of Hashkivenu, we ask that God should spread over us a shelter of peace, a Sukkot Shalom, that we should also feel that sense of shelter, of being protected from the elements of life, that we should be able to find safety and security wherever we are. And so we're going to sing, I think, at the
third line from the top. So count down 3 lines. Ufros aleinu sukkot shlomecha. Spread over us your shelter of peace.
Ufros aleinu sukkot Sukkot
the page to 272 for the shower. Everyone to please rise. Turn to page 274. Invite Asher to lead us in the Amidah.
Blessed you are, Adonai, the Holy God.
Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. You may be seated. Yashakot, Asher, wonderful job. Thank you for leading that part of our service. We'll invite you up later at the end for Kiddush, but for now we will continue on page 277 at the bottom of that page. Three lines different.
In that bottom section. It's hidden in there, but it's there.
Kadeshenu b'mitzvotecha v'ten chelkeinu b'toratecha. Kadeshenu b'mitzvotecha v'ten chelkeinu b'toratecha. Zameinu mitubecha v'sa
So on Sukkot and other festivals, we see this as a beautiful time for prayer, not only for the blessings that we are acknowledging of the world around us and the harvest and nature, but also this notion that kind of the line to God is a little bit more open during this time. And so we add a beautiful prayer during Sukkot and other festivals where we ask that God should bless us with blessings of goodness and what you'll see as we continue through this next part, some really lovely language. We're going to continue in the middle of 279 at the bottom of that page,
where it says Rosh Chodesh, Pesach, and Sukkot. Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Veimotenu Ya'aleh ve'yavo v'yizacher zichronenu ve'zichron kol amcha beit Yisrael lefanecha letova lechen u'lechesed u'lerachamim lechayim u'leshalom beyom chag hasukot hazeh Zachreinu Adonai Eloheinu bo letova Amen Ufagdeinu bo livracha Amen Be'oshienu bo lechaim
Amen. The English in the top of 280. Our God and God of our fathers and our mothers, be truly mindful of us and all your people Israel on this day of Sukkot, and renew in us love and compassion, goodness, life, and peace. This day remember us for well-being. Amen. This day bless us with your nearness. Amen. This day help us to a fuller life. Amen. So we'll join together now in our blessing of thanksgiving and gratitude on the middle of, actually on page 280, the same page, 4 lines from the bottom. V'al nisecha sheb'chol yom imanu. We give thanks for all of the miracles we experience each day.
V'al nisecha sheb'chol yom
Shalom, for peace for all of us, all of Israel and the whole world. Page 282, Shalom Ra.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. B'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael. B'chol ego v'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam.
So we'll turn now to page 371 in our Siddur. Amazing. There we find the Mishaberach, our prayer, in which we ask God to provide healing, a blessing of healing on all of those whom we are thinking of who are ill, be it of body or of spirit, who could use some healing and wholeness, and whose names we really hold in our hearts. And especially this Shabbat, I want to mention names of people we know of in our Temple Sholom community, and then invite you, if you have other names of people you're thinking of, to add them as well. We think of Avram Sudak, Rayanne Brackett, Odin Zatzik, Ron Korber, Arnold Konevsky, Daniel Gottesman, Mark Baton, Merle Grandberg, Yehudit Bat Avraham Basara, Dennis Miller, Dina Mandel, Ralph Schulman, Fred Brower, Basil Kalner, David Goldstein, Howard Diamond, Alex Kavritsky, Isabel, Judy Steiner Losberg, Alana James, Dr. Dimitri Zanazin, Shana Stawicki, Sanford Cohen, Sarah Bat Avraham Basara, Igor Ilyasov, Ed Ozer, David Shlomo Gorny, and Andrea Jarsbiak. Again, if there are other names of people you're thinking of, I invite you to share their names out loud at this time.
Susan Michelin,
Yeah, Portman.
Brian Berkowitz,
Richard Benson, Leah Silva, Sarah Palmer.
Join together in this prayer of healing.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing and
Shabbat Shalom. A few announcements this evening before a few words of Torah. First again, Mazel Tov Asher. We're excited for tomorrow, but you did great tonight as well. Tomorrow Asher will be called to Torah. Services tomorrow at 10 a.m. There's Torah study online at 8:30 if you want to join us for that. And a reminder that on Monday evening is our Erev Simchat Torah service, where we'll also consecrate, I think it's 68, 64 new students in our religious school, something like that. That sounds high. Maybe that was number of new member families. Not as many students, okay. But it's still a lot. I don't know. There's a pile of certificates I have to sign sometime between now and then. So that's 6 o'clock dinner here in the tent in the Sukkah, and then the service will be inside at 8. Is that right? No. Really, Carrie's in charge.
5:45 dinner, just for the consecration students.
Right, and then a 6:30 service. It's written right here. Tuesday, there is our Shmini Atzeret service in Yizkor. That's at 10 a.m. I know that for sure. So join us for that if you would like to come for both the reading of Torah, but also to say Kaddish for loved ones as part of Yizkor. We have actually a very special presentation that's going to take place during that service, something having to do with our Torah scrolls. Other announcements and things that are going on. Our sisterhood has sipping in the Sukkah on the 25th, which is tomorrow night, right here. And our Sholom Shishim, our seniors group, they're meeting on Tuesday, October 5th, so a week from here in the synagogue with local author David Dorothy, who's the co-writer of 111 Places in Vancouver that you must not miss. There's lots more going on at the synagogue, including Levi's Bar Mitzvah next weekend, so join us, and the entire congregation is invited for that. There's a plug for you, Levi. There you go. So, I do actually want to talk a bit about Sukkot, Simchat Torah, and Shmini Atzeret, and all of their connections to each other, particularly Simchat Torah and Shmini Atzeret, Shmini Atzeret and Yizkor. It's always fascinated me that we can fill the sanctuary, pre-COVID, for a Yizkor or memorial service, but Simchat Torah, Sukkot, or even Purim, smaller turnouts. Holidays that are centered on joy, not oi, don't draw as well. Why do we travel again before COVID? Why did we travel miles and time zones for funerals? Now maybe with Zoom we won't as much. On a moment's notice, but skip simchas that we were invited to months before. What's more important? To honor the dead or to celebrate the living? One could make, I think, a reasoned argument over either. And this contrast is actually highlighted in those services that I mentioned that are happening just after the weekend on Monday and Tuesday. This very year, Simchat Torah and Yizkor, Shmini Atzeret, it's the 8th day, technically, of Sukkot. So, on that Monday night, our sanctuary is going to be filled with these new students, 68 or less, or something like that, who are going to be dancing around with Torahs in a COVID-safe way and joyfully dancing and celebrating. There will be candy, because that's what children like to do and have so well. They'll be free from worries and the stresses, even in the midst of COVID, of adulthood. We'll play some music. Cantor Cohen's going to sing a bunch of stuff. We'll have some candy for them, some sweets. It'll be a total dance party. But come Monday, cue the Jimmy Buffett song at this point. Come Monday. That's as far as I'm going to say. Adults are going to fill that same space. And that time we're going to take off, maybe even from work, to recite a Kaddish prayer for our loved ones, a memorial prayer. We have separated the two events largely because to combine them as our tradition directs us seems like, I don't know, ham and cheese on a bagel. It just doesn't seem to go well together. It just doesn't seem right. But Western sensibilities be what they are, we are actually doing it wrong. In Israel, if you go to Israel, Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah are actually celebrated together, which is actually the Reform model because we also follow the Israeli calendar and practice only 7 days of the Chag, of the holiday of Sukkot, though we add this pediatric element to it that further relegates Simchat Torah to sort of the Tat Shabbat crowd. In any event, it makes for, I think, an interesting juxtaposition of the moods. As the Hakafot, the celebratory calling of Chatan Torah, the Torah is actually referred to as in the last Aliyah of Deuteronomy is Chatan Torah, and then Chatan Bereshit, the first of Genesis. Chatan, by the way, means bridegroom, as they give way to the mournful tones of Yizkor. In calling of the bridegrooms to the Torah, it actually echoes the tradition that takes place on Shabbat, immediately following a young couple's wedding, while the memorial prayers recited for the dead call to mind the funeral services of our loved ones. So you have those two competing energies and values and experiences. It's very odd. Indeed, on this one day, to symbolically speaking, attend a funeral and a wedding all wrapped up in one service. The Israeli writer Aryeh Avivi describes this scene in one Israeli synagogue as follows. The merriment stops, overpowered by a change in the climate. Nevertheless, here and there are still signs of rebellion against the acceptance of the yoke of the kingdom of the tears. The people, obligated to recite Yizkor, gather in the vicinity of the reader's lectern. In the western part of the synagogue, others are assembled, and they are drinking and they are toasting each other with l'chaim. Life and death are face to face. There is a rivalry between tears and mirth. At one moment, mourning seems dominant, at another, gladness. And so it is, life and death meet. Joy and sorrow are coupled. A tear and a glee kiss. The order of life and the shadows of the dead are mingled. The recalling of the souls of the departed and the rejoicing of the Torah are as one. Is that possible? Indeed it is, he writes. Truth be told, Judaism seldom asks us to do the easy thing, if you haven't noticed. Rather, what makes our tradition, I think, a way of living so endearing to many is that it challenges us to go beyond our comfort zone, to resist our natural inclinations and to aspire to greater things. And greater things, as we know, are often harder things. So the mixing of Simchat Torah and Yizkor, of joy and oi, together on the same day is quite intentional. It is to place before us the reality of life, the sweet and the sour, if you will. Jews like sweet and sour. And compel us to live with both simultaneously. Juxtaposing sorrow and joy has deep roots in Judaism. Every year, the Festival of Purim reminds us how, according to the Bible, in the book of Esther, the Jews of ancient Persia were saved from annihilation. The day before the carnival-like festivities is marked as a day of fasting, the fast of Esther. We're bidden to recall the perennial threat of destruction as a prelude to giving thanks for redemption. Dow Marmer, the Rabbi Emeritus of Holy Blossom Temple in Toronto, teaches the following. Among the many definitions of what it means to be a Jew, perhaps the most telling suggests that a Jew is a person who weeps with one eye while laughing with the other. What may be physiologically impossible has become historically and psychologically factual. Jews all over the world, especially those who witnessed and survived the Shoah, the Holocaust, and those who experienced Israel wars, testify to it in their daily lives, weeping with one eye, laughing with the other. This may also be part of the Jewish message to the world. Though tragedy is, alas, inevitable and must never be denied, salvation and triumph are also at hand. To live to fully, individually, and collectively is to acknowledge and, yes, to celebrate both. And it's this emotional quandary, it is the direct result and the direct expression of what Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik terms our dialectic existence, an existence defined by conflicting emotions. The Rav, as Soloveitchik is known, explains that in order to effectively respond to the complexity of our existence, an existence that abounds in dichotomies and contradictions, we must apply the complete table of our emotions, engaging the totality of our emotional life. Further, he explains that we must realize that our emotions make up a continuum, such that every emotion is born out of a previous emotional experience and points us toward a new experience into which it will gradually pass. We laugh at funerals as we remember our loved ones. We are greeted with a tinge of joy at a shiva when we see friends we have not seen for years. Perhaps a friend that we might only have made and only have seen because that person who died brought us together. We have a moment of sorrow and melancholy as we look around the joy-filled Seder table and we realize that some are no longer there. The bar mitzvah Torah passing that Asher's going to do tomorrow, that sometimes it skips a generation. We miss a Bubby or a Zadie. who we would have loved would have loved that moment. What Soloveitchik is teaching and saying is that Judaism is teaching through the combination of Simchat Torah and Yizkor is that not only can you not have joy without sorrow in life, but you cannot truly appreciate the meaning of one without the other. And it is their relation to each other that makes them so poignant and so powerful. The joy and the oi, the sweet and the sour. Joy without context, without an appreciation that there could also be sorrow in that moment, is hilarity, which is mindlessness. And similarly, sorrow without appreciation for the joy that waits on the other side is a dark and deep depression. Some of us have felt that this year. Judaism says life is lived with both, not in the balancing of both. That's not so simple to say. It's simple to say, but it's not so easy to do. Rather, life is lived holding both even if one weighs more at a given moment. I know almost nothing about Zen Buddhism, but the one of two things I've learned is this teaching, that the hardest thing to do in life is to carry two equally precious things in your hands at the same time. And it comes from that same root of our tradition of Simchat Torah and Yizkor, of Monday night and Tuesday morning. Both are precious, life and death, joy and sorrow. Both teach us the intrinsic value of life and each precious moment. We must hold them both, even if it is hard. In fact, we have to hold them both because it is hard. The psalmist declares, and our cantor will sing in a moment, those who sow in tears will reap in joy. A fitting verse for a Simchat Torah and a Shmini Atzeret, both of which take place during Sukkot, the time of year that we're to celebrate the harvest, the most joyous of all holidays, we're told. In life, you never get one without the other. We've learned that. But through both joy and sorrow, life, like a field, bears fruit, and it brings forth meaning. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.
Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Try. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. All those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy.
Our service is going to continue. Page 586. We'll rise for a lay down.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol ha'ekelo yosef shelo samdurei ha'arachot shelo samanu b'mishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chelkeinu kalev v'gorinu kechol ha'onam ואנחנו הורים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלך המלכים הקדוש ברוך שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ מושב יקרו בשמיים ממעט ושכינה תוזות בגבי מרומים הוא אלוהים
be seated. A reading before we recite Kaddish together. Page 592. When I die, give what's left of me away. Children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or scent. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that is left of me is love, give me away. On this Shabbat, we recall those who died during this past week and these past 30 days, whose families are in the most acute period of mourning, this period of Shiva and Shloshim. As I read the name of your loved one, if you're here or if you're watching at home online, please rise and remain standing so we can join you in remembering them for blessing. Evelyn Campbell, Alan Feldman, Hyman Gutman, Maury Harrison, Phil Kreitner, Ronald Levitt, Judy Libben, Will Samuels, Anna Shapiro, Murray Shapiro, Dr. Martin Spurgel, and those for whom the Yortzeit, the anniversary of the death of your loved one, is during this week, during this Shabbat. If you two could rise here or at home so that we can join you in remembering them. Sylvia Bell, Samuel Baton, Velimir Brisky Petrov, Zvi Cohen, Arnold Faust, Sheldon Feldman, Esther Fox, Milton Freeman, Suzanne Gilman, Ida Golden, Sidney Gordon, Sari Nan Zach Greenberg, Isaac Herman, Bess Margulies, Rose Jessica Minister, Earl Moss, Harry Pohl, Carol Polsky, Marcia Raber, Ann Ratner, Miriam Sheffrin, Manuel Stabsky, Jack Slavin, Edith White Stern, John Wormelli, Esther Zigdon. There are others who've come to say Kaddish, remember loved ones, whether they died now or at other times, and you're thinking of them at this moment, please, if you would, to rise and share their name.
Pavel Ackerman, Rosa Ackerman.
So we'll rise and join together. We'll join together with those who are in mourning, page 598, as we recall all of those who died in defense of freedom and justice, victims of terror in this land, the land of Israel, around the world. And those who died in the Shoah and the Holocaust. There's no family left to remember them. We recall them for blessing as well. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah. Yalma divrach v'retev yamlich malchutei. V'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayed v'chol Beit Yisrael. V'agalav v'zman karim v'yimaru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach v'olam v'lamei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shemei d'kudisham b'ridu. Ve'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Damin be'oma v'yimaru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'yimaru. Amen. Osei Shalom Yiromam. Hu ya'aseh Shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Kol Yoshvei Tevel. V'yimaru. Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort the bereaved among us. And we say together, Amen.
Amen.
Can be seated.
Included on page 625 with Adon Olam.
Adon Olam Hashem Allah B'terem kol Yitzir Nira
625.
Ve'heit Nasva V'esod Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kiflot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hoveh Ve'hu Yeh B'tivara Ve'hu Echad Ve'en Sheni Ve'hamshir Lo Le'achbira Ve'li Reshit Ve'li Tachlit Ve'lo Ha'oz Ve'hamisra Vueli v'hai goali, v'tzorchem li v'eksara, v'hu nisi umanos li, menat gosi, v'yom ekra, v'yado afiruchi, v'eiti sham v'aira, v'imruchi geviati, Adonai li v'lo ira.
Shabbat Shalom. So we're not quite done yet. We have a couple of things to do. Asher, we need you to come back up to lead us in the Kiddush and the Motzi so that we can eat the delicious oneg that is over there. But before we do that, we're out here, as I said, Sukkah adjacent. And so there is a ritual that we do, a blessing that we say when we dwell in the Sukkah, and to eat a meal, even if it's cookies and whatnot, we'll consider that a meal, is to take the etrog and the lulav, the four symbols of this holiday, the palm frond, the willow, the myrtle, and the fruit of a citron tree, and to hold them together and to say a blessing that blesses nature. Remember, this is a fall harvest holiday, so we thank God for God's presence in the world. It's really a very environmentally conscious holiday, and recognizing that none of this, particularly the food and the sustenance that we have, would be here without that connection to the earth. And so I'm going to ask you to rise, if you would. We'll say the blessing for lifting up the lulav and etrog. We'll also say the blessing for dwelling in the sukkah, because we're going to kind of do that. And then we'll do the kiddush and the motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitsham v'tzivah b'tzivanu al netilat lulav. And then we're going to shake it in 6 directions. You may shake if you would like as well. And you smell the etrog. If you want to smell it later, you can come on up and do it. Just be careful not to break off the tip, then it's not kosher. And we'll say, it's true. And then we'll say the blessing for dwelling in the sukkah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitsham v'tzivah b'tzivanu le'shev b'sukkah. Dwell in the sukkah.
You can take your snack and eat it in the sukkah.
Yes, I can. Is there a kiddush? There it is. Okay, Asher's going to lead us in the kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanou b'mitzvotav v'ratzah banu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahav ratzon hinchilanu zikaron v'maseh b'reishit ki hu yom techilah v'mikra'e kodesh zecher etzion Yisrael. Kivanu b'charta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava u'ratzon, yichaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha'shabbat. Amen. Chaim. It was grape juice. It's okay. It was grape juice, right? Put that down and you can unwrap the challah. Right, the whiskey table's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Still using round challahs because that's what we got. Hold it up so everybody can see it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Take a small piece of that. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
COVID, you get the entire holiday.